Each season, the Loft plans thematic programming, classes, and events. And this winter spring, the theme is Sense of Adventure. Aegor, you're one of our Sense of Adventure teaching artists. Could you introduce yourself and your class?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Aegor Ray. I use he, him pronouns. And I'm really excited to be teaching a class this spring called The Sky Rains Diamonds, Crafting Poetry from Nature and Space Documentaries.
And so, from the name itself, you can sort of get an idea of the adventure that's inherent to it. But I'm curious about what adventure does you.
Yeah, so adventure to me is very tied to things like wonder. And I think of adventure as a confrontation that the self has with the external world that I think we go through every day. So to me, adventure is everything from growing an orchid and having to be very careful and watching blossoms develop and sort of in that relationship of care, you're understanding new things about yourself and the external world. Of course, adventure could also be riding a helicopter over mountains. And in that same moment, I think you're having maybe a more dramatized, maybe a more novel experience with the self and the external world. But I think if you reduce adventure to its most basic components, it's this confrontation that you're having. And I think every moment has that potential for it.
And do you have a story of adventure that's really personal?
Yeah, I think my story of adventure that I'm going to share is becoming a cat person. I historically hated cats. I was an avowed cat hater and had some difficult experiences when I was a child with cats. And in my current relationship, my girlfriend had a cat when we got together, and I really thought, you know, me and the cat, like, we're not going to get along. It's just going to be one of those things, but we can, you know, be together. And over time, his name's Tuesday. I don't know if he's still here, but he just found a way to burrow into my heart. And he actually got very sick. And that's when I realized that, you know, this cat was everything for me. There he is. He knows I'm talking about him. And the adventure in that is this way of being, like, you know, very adamantly not being a cat person was a part of my identity in a way. And it completely changed. And now I like think of my relationship to the world as I'm a cat dad. Like that's a part of my life. It's a way I see the world. It's a enormous part of my day, especially now, is my relationship with Tuesday. And it's opened up this like whole new avenue for thinking about how I exist, both as a person and as like an artist in so many ways. So I think that is a big source of adventure in my life.
So it sounds like really the key aspect of that is a sense of adventure can come from these parts of yourself, these parts of your day-to-day that end up changing. Mm-hmm. And so that leads me to a question about our current lifestyle changes with the pandemic. I think it's been really difficult for a lot of people to hold on to this sense of adventure because they think of travel, mm-hmm. getting out and trying new things, maybe exploring with people. So how have you been able to hold on to a sense of adventure with this time where we're isolated and we're anxious and we don't really know what's going to happen next?
Yeah, so I chose to tell that story because I wanted to see adventure kind of in the context of the everyday, because I think that is really where a lot of the transformative magic can happen. Of course, I think really big novel experiences have these like life altering capacities. But for me, during COVID, the way that I've sought adventure in my life has been reorienting my experience of the familiar. So I'm thinking about how in a year that queer nightlife, which was a big part of my life, has been taken away, I'm seeking similar kinds of experiences in the natural world. So I had a moment this summer. My girlfriend and I were canoeing on Hanging Horn Lake, and we saw 3 loons, and I'd never seen loons in the wild before. And the male loon just would make the most haunting calls in the world. And in that moment for me, it really reminded me of this electronic song called Serenity that I'd been listening to that has this like really beautiful echoing horn all the way through it. And I was able to feel in that moment that a lot of things that historically I've craved and sought out in the external world, in, maybe a party, or maybe even travel, maybe these kinds of, I need to go somewhere to find that. This year has been really about learning that I can find that sense of adventure, that sense of transformation in so many small things. But what it takes is my attention, my ability to stay and be present. And this year that has been really hard. I'm not present all the time. I definitely spend a lot of time, like binge watching Netflix and doing what I need to do to take care of my brain. But the senses of adventure, the senses of like being really present, I feel when I go outside and try to look at Jupiter and Saturn converging in our sky, that's enormous. Or for this holiday, I'm challenging myself to make porchetta from scratch. And so I have 9 pounds of pork shoulder in my fridge, which is not something I really imagine myself doing. So I'm really thinking about how the experience of trying new things exists all the time. And maybe you're doing the same thing that you do every day, but you're paying a little bit more attention to what you're seeing on your walk to wherever you're going, or even just really like looking at your face, like looking into your own eyes, I think can be a sense of discovery. So yeah, I think my COVID experience has been marked by a lot of small adventures that I think are really altering how I see the world.
And talking about your adventures in nature especially really brings us back to your class.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're hoping students are going to gain from your class?
Yeah, I'm so excited about my class. I watch a lot of nature and space documentaries and have always found them as like an enormous fount of wonder and discovery. And I'm excited for students to gain some skills in being able to access sort of like a text like that, like, some show that you saw on Netflix when you were scrolling past, all of the shows you've already seen, and thinking about that as like a creative source. So I'm hoping to sort of imbue students with a new sense of like creative authority, to be able to look at any sort of video or, you know, even a 7-minute clip about snakes, like that can be your poem. That can be the crack in an ordinary experience that gets you to something really deep. And so I guess I'm really interested in imparting a new way of seeing.
Just such a lovely takeaway for your class. For our viewers, you can find Aegor's class as well as all of our Sense of Adventure classes on the Loft website, loft.org. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Aegor.
Thank you. I'm so excited for this class.